All right, we're going to be working on lesson 20 here. Let's look at the objective and highlight it. This is on page 307 of your text. Kieran is getting dinner for his drama club at the evening of the final rehearsal, and the budget for the dinner is $60. Go ahead and circle or underline important information as we read through this word problem. Kieran plans to buy some prepared dishes from a supermarket. The prepared dishes are sold by the pound at $5.29 a pound, and he's also going to buy 2 large bottles of sparkling water at $2.49 each. Go ahead and pause the video here. Try to pick some variables to work for this. Define those variables, and then write an equation or inequality that works for this constraint. Okay, probably we picked maybe P, I'm not sure. If you used X instead, that's totally fine. And P equals the number of pounds regarding those prepared dishes, right? Number of pounds that you're purchasing at the $5.29 a pound. So if we know he's got this budget of 60, we know that he's got $5.29 per pound, however many of those he chooses, plus the 2 bottles of sparkling water, 2 at $2.49 each, and that all has to be less than or equal to his budget of 60. So was this the inequality that you wrote? You also could have simplified the 2 times 49 and just immediately said $4.98. Is that the inequality that you wrote? Either of those would be perfect. How many pounds of prepared dishes can Kieran buy? Explain and show your reasoning. So here's where we're actually going to go solve the inequality that you wrote. So on this upcoming exam, we're expected to be able to write an inequality and then solve it to see possible solutions or the solution set that fits within that constraint. We're going to do 60 minus the 498 to both sides. So grab that calculator. I'm getting 5502. And so 529p equals 5502. And then divide both sides. Sorry, I just realized. Got to change this back to the less than. Okay, so now divide 5502 divided by 529, and our pounds of the prepared foods that we can get has to be less than or equal to 10.4 pounds of prepared foods. And that's real life. I mean, you're not going to always go grab a scoop of something and it's going to be exactly a pound. So 10.4. How many pounds of prepared dishes can he buy? Explain, show the reasoning is 10.4 or less pounds of prepared dishes. How'd you do? All right, Han is about to mow some lawns in his neighborhood. His lawnmower has a 5-gallon tank. And he knows, however, the lawnmower uses 0.4 gallon of gasoline per hour in mowing. What are all the possible values for X, the number of hours that he can mow without refilling? Again, pause the video right now so you can try this and then see if you got the inequality. Okay, how'd you do? So what values did you get? I hope you noticed that we want to divide that 5-gallon tank by the 0.4 gallon of gasoline per hour of mowing. And that's got to be what inequality? X has to be less than that. So if you divide 5, grab your calculators, divided by 0.4, we would get 12.5. And so if the tank is completely full, he can mow for at most 12.5 hours. That's right, at most. Like the maximum. Now, some of you had a conversation about how we couldn't have any negatives. Like the number has to be greater than or equal to 0. If he has 0 gallons, he can mow for 0 hours. That makes sense. But there's no such thing as negative time, right? So we do also want to comment on the fact that x needs to be greater than or equal to 0 to make sense in this problem. Write one or more inequalities to represent your response. Be prepared. And so, sorry, this guy could go down here. This guy could go down here. And the answer is at most 12.5 hours. All right, finally, we're looking at an equation. And did your teacher last year teach you to switch the inequality to an equation and then solve it as an equation and then test values to see if the inequality should end up as a less than or greater than to see what makes sense? That's going to be the method used here by Andre and Priya. And so anyways, we're noticing that Andre's method, they both start the same way by distributing right here on the first step. But when we get down to the second and third steps, we're going to notice that one of them minuses the 18 right here, Andre, and then down here subtracts the 4x. And over here, if you notice, there's an adding of the 1x and then a subtracting of the 3. So one did the 18 first, one did the x's first. Which way would you have leaned towards? And so when they get down to the bottom here, you're noticing the test values that worked for this. The inequality is false, so 4 is not a solution. The solution must be less than 3. And then over here, this not be true. X must include negative numbers, or X must be less than 3. So they both arrived at the same concept here. Make sense of each strategy until you can explain what each one has done. And now here are 4 inequalities for you to try, and you have the ability to choose how you want to solve these. So for example, the 1/5 p greater than negative 10. For this one, in order to get rid of the 1/5, we're going to multiply both sides by the reciprocal, by 5/1, so that this crosses out, and we're left with p is greater than negative 50. Next one, distribute on both sides. And this is really where that last example will come in. Working with your table partner, which way do you see it first? Are you wanting to move the x's like Priya, or are you wanting to move the numbers like Andre? Now I'm going to move the constant. Now right here, when I divide by 4, I'm getting the x on the right-hand side. So if I read this inequality, negative 1 is less than or equal to x, I could flip it around, x is greater than or equal to negative 1. Sometimes it's easier to graph if we flip it around like that to understand the solution, but it's up to you. All right, this next one, do you remember the rule when we divide by a negative? You got it. We flip the inequality. And finally, negative 2c plus 14 c over 3. I'm going to start by multiplying by 3 to both sides in order to cross that out. I'm going to go down here to continue my work. So the 3's cross out, leaving me just c on the left. And then distributing the 3, I'm going to get negative 6c plus 42. Grab a calculator. 14 times 3 is 42. Now I'm going to move the c's. Oops. I'm already showing the answer. I'm going to move the c's to the other side. And I'm going to get c is less than 6. That's up here for part D. Okay, so how'd you do on solving those? Let me highlight each of those answers to make sure you understood which one went with what. This is your answer for part A. Part B. Part C. Okay, hopefully those all made sense now. Finally, when we get down to 20.4, these are nice because you're first going to solve them and then you're going to choose which graph it goes with. And so I'm just going to work through these and then you can see if you got the same matchings. So for example, we're trying to solve for x. So I'm going to go ahead and subtract. And 6 minus 3x is going to make 3x. 3x minus 3x is 0. And then we're left with x is less than or equal to 0. So we're going to solve it and then go match it. Where is it shaded? X is less than or equal to 0. So do you see how here we have a less than or equal? And then you're going to match number 1 with F. You can draw a line, whatever, but that one's taken care of. So now let's go through the next one. This one we need to get rid of the denominator. So when you multiply 1/2 times 4, think of it like half of 4 is 2, but it's top times top, 4 times 1 divided by 2. So where does it show x greater than 2? Now, don't be tempted by this one because this is a closed dot. Sorry, -2. And so x is greater than -2. That would be your E down here. Okay, so I want you to go ahead and try finishing the rest of these and then go ahead and see if you match.
I put my name down.